feel like that should just be an option. Excellent. Okay, we are live now. Okay, so just because it's always awkward, I think, starting these things. Oh, I can't minimize while I'm recording. That's fine. Okay, sorry, I gotta hide you guys over here. There. Thanks for taking the time to do this such short notice. So I will go ahead and just kind of lead these questions here. The first thing that we are going to talk about is what do we think research is? Does anyone want to start?
I'll go. So,
Okay.
so I think research is a systematic way to find out information that we don't know, and also to populate more questions so that we can gain further knowledge down a specific pathway or timeline. So it allows us just to accumulate more information and better information, and then use it in our clinical practice.
I like that you added on there that research is populating other questions, because at the beginning of this program and before we entered this program, I was irritated that every time I was doing any sort of reading on research stuff that had been done, it always ended with a whole bunch of other questions that are so pertinent that the topic or the research article itself almost was rendered, well, unless those questions get asked, I can't use this for anything. And that was frustrating. But now that we're going to be making our own research, I realized that in the infancy of creating these things, I have so many other questions that I'm going to need to ask before I'm able to really answer the ultimate research question that we have. So I'm going to be a victim of the same irritations that I was submitted to. So I think that's funny. But I like that you added that in there because I think that is important.
Yeah.
See, and then from my standpoint, I kind of thought of research. I think of research as more of kind of the details and the fine tuning of like what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. So I didn't think of it as a timeline, which I guess is good. That's a good thought. But for me, it was just kind of more of the intricacies and the details of it. And that's kind of where I feel like I am, is a little bit more detail oriented. So maybe that's how I relate to it or whatever, but just kind of being able to take something that you see and you know it works, and why does it work and how does it work, and that kind of thought process for research.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that. Why, the second question is, why should we care? What is research? And as a clinician, why should we care about research is what I'm guessing that means. And I think that we should care about research because I really do believe that if we're not understanding why something is working, or if we can't really pinpoint what things are working and are not working, then I go back and forth on this. I don't think we should be using things that we don't understand why they work and or that we don't have proof that they do work. I just don't really, and I'm even fighting with myself because there's things that don't make sense, but I'm speaking in generalities. Manual therapy. If we just talked about manual therapy, there's a lot of manual therapy techniques that the therapy itself, it doesn't prove to work, but the patients are like, oh, I really, really, this makes me feel better. So there's those things that are still working. So that's why I'm kind of battling with myself. But going on my first thought, if we can't predict how well something's going to work, then we can't say that it's going to work every time. And then we're once again just doing guesswork all the time. For people that are limited in the amount of time they have per patient, why are we having to do checks and balances and guesswork for every single patient that we see? That's a waste of time. So that's why I feel like research is important. We need to know how things work for predictability. We need to know that they do work for our timeliness.
go ahead.
So I agree with you on that. Well, I thought Dan was going to talk, so I was just like, oh, I'll wait. But I agree with you on that. And one of the things that I absolutely hate, and I feel like I've kind of come to really resent it at this point in time, is doing something because that's how we've always done it. And I hate that. I hate that phrase for us doing something that, is supposed to be a treatment or, helping for, I don't know, whatever rehabilitation process that we're doing, or just like random protocols that we have. Like, that's what we do because that's how we've always done it. that's the worst thing like you could ever say to me. I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, but if it's not working and it didn't work, then let's do something different. Like that drives me crazy. So I definitely appreciate the research and appreciate like the how and the why. So
right.
So I'm going to play such a devil's advocate here. So you ready?
Yes.
So what you two are talking about is patient-centered care. And a third of that is the research and best available evidence. But if you have experience and something works, there's got to be a reason why, even though the literature might not support it. If it works, right? For that patient, if that's a part of that patient value system and it's in your experience, it's worked, then it is a valid treatment from my perspective.
And that's what I was saying when I was arguing with myself, because you're right. Evidence is only a third of it.
And everything's always going to be kind of case by case basis anyway. So, I mean, but I just don't want to do something because if I think that it works and I know that it works and it's something that, I haven't tried with this person. And so I'm going to try it because it has worked for me in the past. Then that's, I feel like completely different though, than me just doing something because that's what we've always done.
And then the other piece is, okay, so we read this awesome research. There's 7 or 8 articles that come out that say it works really, really well. And then, but maybe you're not skilled in that particular, the way that they're doing that particular modality or soft tissue treatment, so it might not work for you. And then also we have to look back like 10 years ago and all the research was categorizing concussions in mild, moderate, and severe, and we've realized that that's not quite there. So we have to be able to be adaptable and understand that yes, research is phenomenal. It answers a lot of questions for us. It gives us a reason to do something. But if that reason is just strictly because the research says I'm going to do it this way, we're not giving true credence to what research really is. It's just a tool in our toolbox to be able to, in my opinion, it's a tool in our toolbox to be able to say, hey, this works, let's give it a shot. If it works, then great. And if it works consistently, then yeah, it becomes a part of your treatment protocols. But if it doesn't, then maybe this is just not the right modality for you, or maybe the research is skewed.
So just to clarify, why do you care about research then with that opinion?
I think that it's extremely important to validate why we're doing something. It proves value. Okay. It proves the deeper knowledge of why you're doing something, I think, is very important. Understanding what your intentions are and why you're providing either an evaluation or a treatment, I think is extremely important. So that's why what I use research for is to better understand why I'm doing something or why I'm not doing something.
Or why you're trying something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I also kind of use it too to see like what other options are out there. So it's not necessarily something that I'm interested in or something that I've seen used before, but like, what other options do I have? Where else can I go with this? And I actually really like the end of the articles where they do talk about like further research and like where we can go with this in the future.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like, well, what if it's right now it's just because we're technologically not as advanced as we need to be to get to that point and to measure that, whatever it is. So, where can this go next? I kind of like those.
Yeah, I do too. Especially for the next, when we're talking about research topics, and seeing where those things go. I know that's going to be helpful in that avenue. Okay, so the next part of this is how and why do videos presented in this week's readings relate to athletic training and research?
So there were the 2 videos. We had he kept saying what the Nobel Prize, but it's not a Nobel Prize, it's like an Ig Prize.
Ig Nobel. Yeah, it's IG and then Nobel.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. And then there was the World Health Organization researcher. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about that one first, because the way that he presented it was that a lot of the research that they are doing to help understand disease and spread of pathologies through people that don't have the technology that we have, they're doing it in in third world nations, in huts and in these very unstable environments, not in a lab and with all these tests and all that. So that's kind of where athletic training is. We're not in that kind of place, but we're on the field. We're doing a lot of these things ourselves. We can accumulate enough information ourselves to then create change in our practice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where a lot of that's what really stuck home with me is his examples of that.
When I got my first debate, and I wanted to reach out to our professors on this, just, I don't know, maybe to just kind of, I needed to debrief with someone. I got in a debate with somebody. So I'm a volunteer for our state association, the Washington State Athletic Trainers Association. And I'm just a representative. There's 3 regions in there, and I'm just one of those regions reps across the state. So anyway, I put this social together. It's supposed to be a fun thing where we come together. I end up there's only one person that showed up. One person in my entire region showed up. Anyway, and so I ended up getting then I get in a debate with this guy, which was just not the mood I was in to get in. But I digress. The reason why I'm bringing it up is because he was well, I want to give him some benefit. He was reluctant. He was against me being in the DAT program. I don't know this guy at all, but he was very, I don't think that we should, in so many words, he says, I don't think that we should be focused on education. And at my core, it just really kind of pissed me off. Like, I shouldn't have been that emotional about what he was saying, but maybe it's because of how hard it was during summer semester, and how much sacrifice that you give, so I had some emotional stock in what he was saying, because he was just taking a crap on what this was. But his point was that we do a lot of field research, and that through the things that we have tried and practiced on the field, that we have a really good understanding, and that education is not necessarily where that came from. That educational foundation is not where that anecdotal data came from. Now, I still in no way agree with what he was saying. I really don't. I think I understood the premise of what he was trying to get at, but it was a really poor argument, even if I was on his side. So I think that, what you're saying when we were talking about, when that guy was talking about what is research, or what 6 ways why research is cool, I think was his whole topic. He said, we have a chance to do things out in the field, and to learn things out in the field that matter, and to see the results of our work, or see the worth of our work, face to face. And I think that is directly applicable to athletic training and what we're doing, because as much as I happen to love lab work, we get to see real results in real time right then and there for the most part. Sometimes it takes like a few week investment on some things, but that's really what I drew from that. And then the other one, the Ig Nobel Prize ones, I thought there are a whole bunch of the examples that guy brought up, how they give the prize because initially it makes you laugh, but then it's a real purpose. I think about how many things I have created, because we don't have resources. I'm in a secondary school setting, but you don't always have all the resources. ISU doesn't have a hyperbaric chamber, if that even works. I'm not even really certain still after I did that project. You will not always have those resources, and that doesn't give you the excuse to be a, not a bad clinician, but a incompetent clinician. I feel like part of our job is creating things that are still able to work. You don't have a calf stretcher, so you use a wall. You don't have a foam roller, so you do, a different kind of massage or whatever. Like you figure out what you need to do. And that's really what I took from it. I thought both of those videos were applicable to our job.
Yeah, so, and that one, it really reminded me of, and this is psychology, so this is from my first degree, but there's a term called functional fixedness. And it's when you don't have, like, if you see a wrench, you don't just see a wrench, you see something else that you can do other things with. And so I feel like that was one of the first clinical experiences I had, because I was entry-level master's. So going to my master's, I hadn't really done a whole lot of athletic training stuff in real life. And so one of the places that I did was outreach out in Lubbock, Texas, which is West Texas, middle of nowhere. And so I had all these schools that I had 3 schools, I think, that I was going to a week. And they were about an hour out from where I was. And so they had, they would actually do their rehab probably better than some of the kids that I have now.
Yeah.
But which is sad because I see them every day. But it was one of those things where we didn't have everything available to us. And so we were just kind of, okay, well, this is what I want you to do. And like that foam roller thing, like we talked about that with like soccer balls. Like, I want you to use a soccer ball and I want you to roll, because it's round and it's not a football that's going to just like go wonky.
Yeah.
So, that really hit home with me with that functional fixedness idea. And so it's not something that we kind of just see a box as a box. We see it as more than that, and being able to have that, ability and like adaptability, I think was awesome.
Yeah. I like having a term for that, because you're right. That describes it perfectly. Okay. So the next question was, what are you most looking forward to in this class? And I'm curious, because I have a lot of fears.
Yes. So I really like this research idea. I really like this idea and concept and like moving forward with it, even though I have like next to no ideas on research topics, as Dan knows. Okay. But that's also what terrifies me. So I'm very excited to do that and to learn that. I'm very terrified about how to do that and how to think, I feel like, more complexly than I've ever thought before. So I think that worries me as to whether or not I can actually do that. Hopefully that ability is there, but right now I feel like I'm just I'm taking a leap of faith. I'm jumping and hoping that something catches me.
Yeah.
I do not have the type of mind that's very research oriented. Like, I see a bird and I'm like, oh, a bird, and then a squirrel. And so I feel like in this, I need to be very kind of centered in what we're trying to do. And the other one is, one of the things I want to do is a survey. And what if I don't get any responses?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my biggest fear about my research project is, what if nobody answers? I got to get this done. So I don't know.
Yeah, that is, you're putting a lot of faith in people. So I actually, and I will save this for, whatever we come up with for a research topic group, as far as I'm concerned. When we left DAT program, it's the DAT
weekend,
whatever, weekend. I was on a roll with this whole idea of language barriers and what that does to our profession and how we handle those things in our profession. And I discovered a passion for underserved populations. And I didn't realize necessarily that I had that population, but I'm in this, I'm in a phase of my life right now where I'm really, really tired of people getting away with things because they're hard to do, or, a whole bunch of services being given to one population and then nothing to somebody else. And that's just a thing that I'm going through in my life right now. And I identified that I was even doing that in my own work. I have a very large Hispanic population, to kind of touch on what I'm interested in. Very large Hispanic population. I love culture. I love language. I love it. And I am entirely disengaged with, we don't speak the same thing. I don't have anyone that can translate. Good luck. Just go to a doctor. Because I don't have anything. And I think because I was the thing I hate the most, I was so passionate about it. So I am looking forward to answering questions, and I'm really, really looking forward to problem solving and learning how to problem solve efficiently.
Yeah.
I'm fearful that I am not going to get there because there's going to be so much foundation work that hasn't been done. I'm frightened that I'm not going to get to be the guy that's like, yeah, this is the solution, because no one has done this groundwork yet. And I know that that's selfish, but what I was saying earlier is I want solutions. And I, came into the DAT program because I wanted to be the fixer and the problem solver. And I'm now realizing how much work goes into even getting that end result first. I didn't want to do my research on, okay, where are we at? What are people doing now? How do you feel about it? I wanted to get like, this is what works. I found a new thing. This is what we need to do. Here is this tool. And I'm fearful that that was unrealistic.
It might be a little unrealistic, but I think that's still definitely an achievable goal, especially within the next 2 years. Like, your research answer may not get you there like today, but it's definitely going to lead you in the right direction, I think, towards making better problem solving kinds of choices. You know what I mean? Which again, that's partially my fear / hope in this class too. So I'm with you.
Okay.
I think something that we have to remember is that research is not a leap of faith. It's a bunch of small steps that bring us to answers.
Yes.
And when one of the videos is kind of expect the unexpected. So if you go into your research project thinking that you're going to have the answer, you're not going to succeed in that research. You need to kind of go into it without an expectation. Like, you have a question, you want to figure out a very specific thing, and then from there you take the next step. Is, okay, is this question valid? And then what do I do with that information? And then take the next step and the next step. And then eventually you look behind you and there's a whole path of pebbles of a bunch of questions that you've answered, but you couldn't have gotten to where you were unless you started laying that foundation down. Mm-hmm. So don't get so caught up in wanting to jump to the conclusion, because part of it is understanding what does that mean. And it takes very small incremental steps to get there.
Yeah, that's a common theme. I think that I'm going to be learning and relearning is I got into this program. I wanted to be in this program because, I wanted to be the change. And I think what I'm going to get out of this program is slow the hell down. We need to start. Don't bring yourself down here. That's not what I'm saying. But you need to start here before you're thinking, way over here. Because, this amount of space, there's a whole lot that goes into that. So I'm learning a lot of that. Sorry if my dogs are loud. Sorry. Anyway.
Didn't even know they're there.
Oh, okay. She's like snoring in my ear right here. Sorry. Okay. Thank you guys for taking the time. Those are all of the questions, unless anyone had anything else to add about fears and excitements. No? Great. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
No worries.